computing powers that they have from the companies in Silicon Valley. So given that, it is quite significant and quite memorable milestone here that we have here. And we have to remember that Minimax Group is another of its domestic rival, but it's debuting in Hong Kong with about the same $600 million offering tomorrow. So it just raises that competition among the domestic rivals. Again, we have a lot of these names, but they're very different in terms of their pedigree. So Zipu actually focuses on targeting some of the domestic institutions, so it actually has more competitive edge in that space.
Minutes left.
That's really useful context on me. Talk to us about whether these two AI startup listings this week sort of set the tone for what we might expect for the rest of the year.
Yeah, so we've been actually seeing, especially in December last year, a lot of these IPOs coming both onshore and in Hong Kong. Especially, we're more focused on those four little dragons, as they call it, the GPU makers. And in fact, we have to remember that Illuvital CoreX, which is one of these GPU makers, are also listing in Hong Kong today. But it is just a listing spree that we have been seeing. And this will continue. Of course, we've seen that spill over into these software names like Zipu and Minimax. But again, these are the trend that we're seeing here. And it is still a cautious tone that the investors are reminding us, because this is, again, very easy to get ahead of the fundamentals. Again, of course, because these companies are offering these shares to the public ahead of even the American software makers, but still it is something that it is precisely because these companies want to raise funds for R&D purposes. In fact, Zipu actually is going to be using 70% of its proceeds to fund its R&D, and so all of this actually comes down to after several of the years whether who are going to remain as the top choice.
Sang-Mi, thank you for getting us set up for these listings. Bloomberg, Sang-Mi Cha in Hong Kong. Now we'll hear more from ZAI co-founder and chairman Liu Debing in an exclusive conversation later on the China Show. That's at 9:30 a.m. in Hong Kong, 8:30 p.m. in New York. We have more ahead on the Asia trade. This is Bloomberg.
Time to check some of the stocks to watch when markets open in Hong Kong and mainland China. Keep an eye on defense stocks as US peers climb in late trading, with President Trump saying he'll request a 50% increase in next year's military budget. Some names on our radar in China: AECC Aviation and AEIC Shenyang Naval.
Also on our radar, Paul, take a look at Samsung managing to reverse the declines you saw in the early goings as its preliminary earnings came more or less in line with estimates. So there was a bit of that sell effect, but I think investors are also focused now on longer term, mid-long-term demand for its memory chips, which of course Samsung is a massive player in. We are also seeing that helping the Kospi to reverse the declines in the early parts of trade. Watching as well some of the defense-related stocks, that is really helping to offset some of the negative sentiment in the markets. In terms of futures in the Greater China region, this is the setup going into the start of trade in the next hour. Hang Seng futures pointing to those declines. That's it from the Asia trade. This is Bloomberg.
Excellent. Now we got to go in video because it's our next module. Then from there we're gonna go Intel because Intel has a new processor too. So does AMD. We're gonna compare all systems, but we're gonna do this module on that system. So let's go in video. NVIDIA, and then we'll go direct to their channel. The only thing is their introduction takes forever. Here it is. We're gonna have to fast forward and pick up wherever we left off last. Oh, wait a minute. Fast forward this. Good. Good. Yeah, yeah. Pase por aquí, primo. Puede tomar asiento ahí. Puede sentarse ahí. No worries, no worries. Do you know how you would like your haircut for today? Just like a nice gentleman's haircut?
Right.
Okay, perfect. We're going to use a combination of the machine and the scissors, okay?
Right.
So we're going to taper sides in the back. We'll outline it for you natural for cut, and then we'll conform it around the crown with the scissors. We'll tuck away the waffle, and we'll finish on top of the scissors. Would you like for us to trim your eyebrows today?
No, that's fine.
That's fine. What about your mustache? Would you like for us to clean it up? Make that natural? Okay, perfect. As you do, I'm going to have the music full blast. If you need me, raise your hand. I can hear you, but very low. Okay? I'm going to travel to the future. I'll be right back. Welcome to the shop. I'm teaching an engineering class. This is the CES presentation from Las Vegas from a few days ago. So you know everything is technology. So I need to keep my students up to date. You know? Welcome to the shop. Here it is.
Welcome to the stage, NVIDIA founder and CEO, Jensen Huang.
Hello, Las Vegas! Happy New Year! Welcome to CES. Well, We have about 15 keynotes worth of material to pack in here. I'm so happy to see all of you. You got 3,000 people in this auditorium. There's 2,000 people in the courtyard watching us. There's another 1,000 people apparently in the fourth floor where there's supposed to be NVIDIA show floors, all watching this keynote. And of course, millions around the world are going to be watching this to kick off this new year. Well, every 10 to 15 years, the computer industry resets. A new platform shift happens. From mainframe to PC, PC to internet, internet to cloud, cloud to mobile. Each time, the world of applications target a new platform. That's why it's called a platform shift. You write new applications for a new computer. Except this time, there are two simultaneous platform shifts, in fact, happening at the same time. While we now move to AI, applications are now going to be built on top of AI. At first, people thought AIs are applications. And in fact, AIs are applications, but you're going to build applications on top of AIs. But in addition to that, how you run the software, how you develop the software fundamentally changed. The entire five-layer stack of the computer industry is being reinvented. You no longer program the software, you train the software. You don't run it on CPUs, you run it on GPUs. And whereas applications were pre-recorded, pre-compiled, and run on your device, now applications understand the context and generate every single pixel, every single token, completely from scratch every single time. Computing has been fundamentally reshaped as a result of accelerated computing, as a result of artificial intelligence. Every single layer of that five-layer cake is now being reinvented. Well, what that means is some $10 trillion or so of the last decade of computing is now being modernized to this new way of doing computing. What that means is hundreds of billions of dollars, a couple of $100 billion of VC funding each year is going into modernizing, inventing this new world. And what it means is $100 trillion of industry, several percent of which is R&D budget, is shifting over to artificial intelligence. People ask, where's the money coming from? That's where the money is coming from. The modernization of AI to AI, the shifting of R&D budgets from classical methods to now artificial intelligence methods. Enormous amounts of investments coming into this industry, which explains why we're so busy. And this last year was no different. This last year was incredible. This last year, there's a slide coming. This is what happens when you don't practice. 2025 was an incredible year. It seemed like everything was happening all at the same time, and in fact, it probably was. The first thing, of course, is scaling laws. In 2015, the first language model that I thought was really going to make a difference, made a huge difference. It was called BERT. 2017, Transformers came. It wasn't until 5 years later, 2022, that ChatGPT moment happened. And it awakened the world to the possibilities of artificial intelligence. Something very important happened a year after that. The first O1 model from ChatGPT, the first reasoning model, completely revolutionary, invented this idea called test time scaling, which is a very commonsensical thing. Not only did we pre-train a model to learn, we post-train it with our reinforcement learning so that it could learn skills. And now we also have test time scaling, which is another way of saying thinking. You think in real time. Each one of these phases of artificial intelligence requires an enormous amount of compute. And the computing law continued to scale. Large language models continue to get better. Meanwhile, another breakthrough happened. And this breakthrough happened in 2024. Agentic systems starting to emerge. In 2025, it started to proliferate just about everywhere. Agentic models that have the ability to reason, look up information, do research, use tools, plan futures, simulate outcomes. All of a sudden, starting to solve very, very important problems. One of my favorite agentic models is called Cursor, which revolutionized the way we do software programming at NVIDIA. Agentic systems are going to really take off from here. Of course, there are other types of AI. We know that large language models isn't the only type of information. Wherever the universe has information, wherever the universe has structure, we could teach a large language model, a form of language model, to go understand that information, to understand its representation, and to turn that into an AI. One of the biggest, most important ones is physical AI. AIs that understand the laws of nature. And then, of course, physical AIs is about AIs interacting with the world, but the world itself has information, encoded information, and that's called AI physics. AI that, in the case of physical AI, you have AI that interacts with the physical world, and you have AI physics, AI that understands the laws of physics. And then lastly, one of the most important things that happened last year, the advancement of open models. We can now know that AI is going to proliferate everywhere when open source, when open innovation, when innovation across every single company and every industry around the world is activated at the same time. Open models really took off last year. In fact, last year, we saw the advance of DeepSeek R1, the first open model that's a reasoning system. It caught the world by surprise, and it activated literally this entire movement. Really, really exciting work. We're so happy with it. Now we have open model systems all over the world, all different kinds, and we now know that open models have also reached the frontier. Still solidly is 6 months behind the frontier models, but every single 6 months, a new model is emerging, and these models are getting smarter and smarter. Because of that, you can see the number of downloads has exploded. The number of downloads is growing so fast because startups want to participate in the AI revolution. Large companies want to, researchers want to, students want to, just about every single country wants to. How is it possible that intelligence, the digital form of intelligence, will leave anyone behind? And so open models has really revolutionized artificial intelligence last year. This entire industry is going to be reshaped as a result of that. Now, we had this inkling some time ago. You might have heard that several years ago, we just started to build and operate our own AI supercomputers. We call them DGX clouds. A lot of people ask, are you going into the cloud business? The answer is no. We're building these DGX supercomputers for